What's up, everybody? This is Mind Your Money with MissBeHelpful, a show that highlights people and stories that will inspire you to get your money right. And today I'm so excited to talk to Dannie from Pennies to Wealth. And she is such a fabulous person. I actually got to know her recently in person at a financial conference. And she's a financial educator and frugality queen. Welcome to the show, Dannie.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, I'm so excited we finally got a chance to chat. I have been trying to get you on the show for a little while because you have just constantly been a source of inspiration for me with all of your like frugality finds at the Dollar Tree and all of your really cute posts on social. And I'm like, you know what? We got to bring Danny to tell her story on the show. So I'm really glad that we could make it work with our schedules.
Oh my gosh, I love that. And yeah, shout out to Dollar Tree.
Yes. We're going to get into the Dollar Tree. We're going to get into
Yeah.
it. Oh man. So for those of you who don't know, Pennies to Wealth is an awesome blog. I highly recommend following Danny on Instagram as well, Pennies to Wealth, if you're not already. Such awesome content coming up on the feed and also just stories, great finds, great resources, links, just funny antics, like following her around and like getting updates about her life. I really enjoy following her. And so definitely recommend it. Danny, I want to just go ahead and start with a quick introduction about you, you're a little bit about who you are, and then we're going to jump into some really juicy questions about financial regrets. So just let everybody know a little bit about yourself first to get started.
All right. Well, again, hi, I'm Dannie. I'm the founder of Pennies to Wealth. I started it about 2.5 years ago, just out of the need of my family. They saw me starting to pay off my credit card debt. I was on Facebook at the time.
Yes.
And they were like, hey, can I have the spreadsheet? Can I have the tips? And I'm like, all right, I need to organize all of this
Mm.
information.
Yep.
So that's how I started. Like, I only had 5 people following me at the time, and all of them were like distant family members.
Yeah.
Um, and so it just grew from there. People started wanting to know like how I shopped and how I budgeted for groceries and all of these different things that I didn't think were actually important, but they
Yep.
became very important in what my brand actually offers. And so I'm just thankful for the growth and thankful for people actually being able to have tangible information and
Hmm.
actionable tips for them to change their finances because
That's right.
that's usually missing in financial education. So
Mhm. Especially from women and more especially from women of color. So I love that you're doing both, representing it out here. I love it. And just for those of you who are interested in following Danny and all of her awesome stuff that she posts, like Penny Souls has over 40,000 followers on Instagram. So this is not just like, oh, there's like a cute little thing like me on Instagram. Like no, like legit, like there's such a good following because the content is quality, man. Okay, so let's jump into your juicy stories about financial regrets. I always like to start with them just because I feel like before, like, obviously the podcast is for stories that inspire and people that inspire. But before we are a source of inspiration, we are just humans with our own financial messiness. And I just think that it's important to start from that place of commonality. Like, anybody listening who might not have all their financial stuff together, listen, we all have been there, you know? And so I think it gives people more hope to know that even people with a platform who have their finances together, even we were a hot financial mess at some point. And so I want to talk about a time where you spent so much money. Maybe it was on an experience, maybe a purchase or service. And you just, if you could go back in time and take all of it back, you would, because you really regret spending the money the way that you did.
oh my gosh, there's so many.
But that's real. That is real.
There's so many. Which one do I pick? So shout out to my ex, but we had eloped and we were perfectly fine with that. Like,
Right.
we were happy, okay? And
Yeah.
then family started to get in our head, like, oh, you need to have a wedding, you need to have a reception. And we
Of
never
course.
really wanted that.
Yeah.
But we ended up spending about $15,000. Mind you, we were in debt at the time. We hadn't talked about it yet.
Wow.
And so, and so, of course, that was a cheap wedding and all of that, but it was still $15,000 that we could have put
Yes.
somewhere else.
Hell yeah.
um, so I think that was like the most expensive purchase that I could not get back any kind of way. I sold a lot of other expensive purchases, but I mean, you can't. get the
Yeah.
the wedding
Listen.
cake and the decorations.
Ugh, it's a lot, especially when you're not like I know you guys were based in the Bay. So anybody listening, you probably caught that Danny said her ex. Danny used to share the platform with your ex husband now, right, DJ? And I remember meeting y'all both, and it was like clear that you were both very young and like just had all y'all ish together. And so it's so interesting now to like see you be like single and like reclaiming like your financial life and just like starting like I love to see it. And so it's just interesting at such a young age how you can say like, well, yeah, one of my financial regrets was like this whole wedding, and because it wasn't for you and DJ, I feel like it was for the other people that were like, oh, you need to do this, you need to do that. Like if y'all had sat down and kind of really talked about it and planned it to be the way you wanted, I bet you probably wouldn't have spent that much. And if you did, you wouldn't regret it as much because it would have been the way you wanted it.
Right. I definitely would have went back to North Carolina and had the little banquet hall at Golden
Yes.
Corral and
Right.
called it a day. Like everyone can meet here. I don't even know where my wedding dress is at this time. Like we never, I don't know. It was just really weird.
Yeah, it's one of those things when you do something for other people more than you do it for yourself, like you end up regretting it, whether it involves money or not. Like, it's just you got to do things for you, and it's hard when you're young because you might not necessarily even know what you really want yet, and you're just trying to impress your parents or you're trying to make them proud. And so at a younger age, I find it is harder. Like now that I'm over 30, I'm like, child, please, I don't have time to spend thousands of dollars. Like, unless it's important to me and I personally value it, like, you will not see me coughing up coins. No, no.
No. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
It's
I'm
real.
the same way.
Yeah, you get older, you get to know yourself better. And yeah, you just you got to keep it real. All right. What about on the flip side of a regret? Something that you don't regret and you actually, maybe somebody else might look at your situation and be like, Danny, you're tripping. I looked over your budget. Like, I would never have done that in your situation. And you're just like, mind your business. I'll do it again if I could because I'm glad I did it and it was worthwhile for me.
I think my house, we bought a
Mhm.
house 2 years
Yep.
ago. And, so many people, they love to do the comparison of rent and buy. How long are you going to be in the area? My ex,
Yeah.
he was in the military, but we
Right.
decided to buy, and we were very specific about the area that we chose. And here in California, that tiny house was still almost $400,000. Okay. I could buy
Wow.
two houses in North Carolina, but it ended up like for some reason this area blew up, and once
Mhm.
we sold it, we had about $70,000 in equity, and of course we split it and had to like pay moving and all of that. But
Yeah.
that was one of the best buys for sure. Because I mean,
Nice.
where else are you gonna get $30,000 on one day?
That's right. And also the fact that it could have went in so many different directions. Like 2 years ago to now, a lot has happened.
It
And
has.
listen, so it's so interesting that it worked out in a positive in two aspects. One, it's like y'all got a lot out of that space together and it was worth it to be there. But then also you were able to actually make a profit from it, which is amazing. Like that's a two for. Like it's hard. It's hard with real estate. So I think it's true to find something like that's it's a gem, especially in Cali. Cali is like New York. Like it's like if you don't have $1 million,
Yeah.
expect to buy a shoebox for 400K.
Yes. Oh my God. My little shoebox. I'm thankful.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. And that, I think it's true that you make that point about like how in the personal finance space, people are so obsessed with doing this rent versus buy argument. And it's so interesting because we both know like there's no right answer. It's not a math problem where you have, what is the number of pencils this little girl has after subtracting 7 and she started with 10 is 3. No, it's not that type of problem where it has one answer. And that's the frustrating part. It's like, it's all about, it depends. It depends on so many things. And I'm sure a lot of things went into the decision that you guys made to buy the house at the time you did. But it's just not like a, black and white, super clear, easy thing.
Yes, I always encourage people to think for themselves. There's so many formulas out there, so much advice based on one person's idea of
Yes.
how you should live. And
Mm.
you really have to take in consideration your situation. Like,
Right.
is this the right move for me? Is this a great neighborhood? You know, when you're considering a house, like, you have to look at everything. I was the pain in my mortgage lender's tail. Like, I asked him to print out all of these different budgets. Like, he told me we could afford double, and I was like,
Was he?
no, like that's not aligned with my goals. Like, you just have to be very intentional with every purchase,
Yes.
and don't just rely on what the internet is saying, like, oh, you should be here at 25 or here at 30. You know, I
Right.
if I followed that, I would be still in a deep depression because I felt so behind.
Mm,
We didn't reach debt freedom until I was like 27, and I know that's early compared to other people,
Yeah.
but when you're like
yeah.
experiencing chronic unemployment, health issues for half a decade,
Yep.
you really do think you're alone, especially
That's
when
right.
all of our generation is on Instagram flexing every
Mm,
day.
all the
uh,
time.
oh
That's
my
right.
god. So I really had to understand that I needed to focus on myself and only myself. And that is the only
Yeah.
reason why I was able to push through all of those things. So,
And I know you paid off like over $100,000, right? I remember seeing your amount. I think it was, I don't remember your specific number, but it was over 100K.
yes, it was a lot. We paid off about $130,000 in debt.
Ooh.
My ex had about 50K in student loans, and then we had 20K in credit cards, and then we got about 20 more K in credit cards because I was following other people's advice.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
We had
That'll do it.
RV, we had all kinds of things.
Wow. Okay, so take us back to growing up. I think it's always interesting to me to hear people's like upbringing stories and like early money lessons and early experiences around money, you know, as a child, especially because I find that it in some way, shape, or form, it connects and impacts to how you're living now and a lot of your financial mindset in some way. For some reason there's a connection, and so I'm always curious about like people's upbringing. Just, you know, any early money lessons, early money experiences, the way you grew up, where you grew up, and what that was like for, you know, young baby Dannie growing up.
Shout out, baby Danny. Oh my God. I grew up in a very country town. We didn't have any stoplights. The only way to get into the town was over like a train track.
Oh
So
my
it was
goodness.
like very tiny. Everyone worked in either like the pork factory or the fiberglass factory.
Mm.
So I never saw someone living well or even comfortably. Struggling was the norm. And so
Wow. Yeah.
I remember at a young age, like I was like, it has to be more. Like, I was an avid reader, and so I'm reading all of these things, and I'm like,
How come I don't see that in my own town?
So even then, I was able to see that. Like, I always saw people complaining, and I'm an empath, and I'm super shy. Like, so I'm like, this is not comfortable for me. I don't want to live like this.
Yeah.
So the only way to get out of that town is through education.
Mm.
And so I just poured myself into that. But of course, as a young girl, you're like, you're not thinking of the cost of education.
That's right. You're just trying to pursue your dreams.
Right.
At
And
all costs,
so,
right?
of course, I wasn't able to have like financial assistance from like my parents, my mom. I was raised by a single mom,
Mm-hmm.
but I did my best to find like grants, financial aid,
Yeah.
scholarships, and I did pretty well. But I also went into school in 2008.
Oof. Yeah.
So I lost a few grants, and I ended up having to take student loans to supplement. And so that's how I got out. I think I actually graduated though with only about $10,000 in debt, which is
Nice.
low compared to like my
That's
ex and
right.
all of my friends.
That's right.
And so I, of course, didn't graduate thinking, oh, I'm going to just pay this off immediately.
No. Who does that?
Oh my gosh. But like I said, I went to college during, the economic downturn, of course, the recession, and trying to find a job with a psychology degree. Almost
Yeah.
impossible. That's another mistake. Please don't major in psychology unless you're going off to be like get a master's in therapy or
Yeah.
go to med school, honey, because
Right.
no, don't do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, so all of my decisions was based on my upbringing. I tried to do the opposite. Like I was like, okay, well maybe they're struggling because they don't have like a higher education. Let me figure out how to get a higher education.
Right.
I saw my mom didn't really follow a budget. We just went with the flow, and I was trying to be super strict with my money. But the
Yeah.
thing I always tell people, no matter how good you are with money, you need money. Okay.
That's right.
I didn't have enough money. So
Drop the
that was like
facts.
the biggest problem.
Yeah.
Like I had good intentions all the time, even if I made financial mistakes. But I just had the lack of money, and it took almost a decade for me to turn
Mm,
that around. And so I am thankful. I'm thankful for the lessons for my family because I did learn
yeah.
something. I learned what not to do. And I
Yes.
think that's a very important aspect of parenting, being
Right.
open and honest. And my mom was always honest about the state of our finances. She wasn't hiding it.
It's hard to hide it. Some people do. Some people do hide it, but I think, it's hard, especially when, when you're by yourself. Like as a single mom, I have so much respect for single mothers. Like my mom did a lot for us, but my dad was always there, and I recognize the power of having another partner to support. So it's hard out there. Like a single mom, like you're already struggling, and you also have to try to hide that from your kid. Like it's a lot. It's a lot to juggle.
It is. And I'm so happy that, she was always honest about what was going on. Because, of course, that still influenced me in a positive
Yeah.
way. At
Yeah.
least, like, she wasn't pretending and trying to buy us all of these things that, she couldn't afford because I grew up never, like, till this day, like,
Yeah.
I bought $1,000 love sack, but it took me 5 years to make the purchase. Like, and so I'm really not interested in like designer labels still.
Yeah.
Like I told you earlier, this picture's from Burlington Coat Factory. Like I
Yes,
really
girl. Shout out to
prefer
Burlington. Shout out to Burlington. They got the deals. Don't even front, y'all.
Burlington
Burlington
got
got
the
the
deal.
deals.
So I think all of those things influence like my frugality today and how I view
Yeah.
money. I hold on to every dollar because of course I still have this fear that I'm gonna end up in that small town in a
Yeah.
trailer. Like, I like it's nothing wrong with that, but I know also that I can do so much more. And so that's what I'm trying my best to do.
Yeah.
It's not that there's anything wrong with that. What it is that you grew up in that environment, and as an adult now, you would want to be able to propel yourself forward and have some forward progress in your life, which means, of course not. If that's your situation right now, like absolutely no shame, absolutely no judgment. But at the end of the day, for somebody to want to progress forward, there is absolutely nothing wrong with that, with wanting to be at a place where now you're farther off and better off than where you were, especially if you remember that place, that environment being a place of struggle, especially for your mom. Like, so I definitely don't think that there's any shame or judgment, but shout outs to you for really being on your way. I mean, I know you're a certified financial educator,
Yeah.
accredited financial counselor, fellow, and like just constantly rooted in that education.
Like since I started that platform, like I always wanted to come from that point of view. Like,
Hmm.
hi, this is how, and even at the beginning, I wasn't even showing how I was doing things because I didn't want that to influence other people.
Influence.
And of
Mm.
course, still now people are like, well, I see you're doing it this way. Like, should I? I'm like, well, it depends on your situation. And of course, half of the people hate when I say that,
Yeah.
but other people really do appreciate it because they can take the gems and then they can fill in the blanks
Exactly.
regarding whatever their age, if they have kids, what their retirement goals are, what their current situation is. And
Right.
so it's so important to not just give one size fit all information. Like, oh my gosh,
So
like
true.
there are money basics, but there's so many, caveats about how this actually applies to your finances. So
Yep.
I would wholly recommend that people seek out multiple pieces of information and not just one, just so you can get
Yep.
a whole view instead of
That's
just
right.
one narrow-minded view of
Yeah.
finances.
That's right. And just get multiple perspectives, because I know, like, it's sad when like one person just like, oh no, my financial guru says this. And it's like, okay, but the fact that you have one financial guru is problematic. You should be collecting lots of sources. You should be at the minimum triangulating, which y'all know the root of that word is a triangle. That means you want to have at least three sources of information whenever you're, making a decision or you're doing research. Three, minimum three. You want to have more if you can, but hey, triangulating is a start. And I just know there's so many people out there that just like, no, it's my guru, and this also applies outside of finances. Like I know people that have like their health and wellness guru and say, oh no, my health and wellness guru said I got it. And I'm like, okay, but what about other health and wellness gurus? What do they say? Like, did you do more research besides this one person? So yeah, I mean, I could go on and on, but that's just something I really do feel strongly about. Like, people need to really be well informed. So I really want to talk a little bit too about where you are now, because you have really like transformed your life in so many ways from the last time I saw you and last time we connected. And I feel like from what I know, you've always been like the type of person that is like a little bit of everything. Like, I guess the best word to describe is like a Renaissance woman. Like, I've seen like you educating, you get different like work interviews, like you've done modeling, like you're like, I see all these things. I'm like, yes, Dannie is just out here, like just make a coin. And for me, I'm like, okay, now I'm kind of like curious to know what your lifestyle looks like now, work wise, COVID wise. I guess I'm trying to not say post COVID, because we're literally in the middle of it, but mid-pandemic, like what is like kind of like daily life looking like for you, and how it relates to your work with Pennies to Wealth? Like, how much of your day or your week is Pennies to Wealth versus other things that you're working on?
I was married about 7 years. I got married super early. I was 21 years old. Take your
Yeah.
time, people. Uh, and so I got divorced at the end of 2019. And I left the town and I went down to the Bay Area.
Mhm.
And of course, I was there about 2 months before everything shut down. So I was newly divorced. I was at a new job. I had to get a new job. And I work for a fintech company. So I still do like instructional design / training. So of course I started as a teacher, transitioned to corporate world. But yeah, like these past 2.5, 3 years have been so crazy. Going through a divorce in 2019, that is draining in itself, and then being smacked in forced isolation,
Yeah.
and with this COVID and pandemic, and California, it has a mind of its own. We have all of these
Right.
restrictions, and it's been a lot. It's been a lot. Of course, I took a break from Pennies to Wealth because I was like, I cannot manage my life. Like, I have to remember to eat,
Yes.
rest. I can't blog and be happy. And of course, I'm glad that my followers understand that I would rather be away than to be fake.
Yes, girl, that is some realness
It's
right
right
there.
there. Woo!
Yes.
I
Yes.
am not the one to be fake, honey. I told them what was going on, and then I just bounced for about
Mhm.
half of the year last year.
Yeah.
No, I remember you posted on Instagram and you're like, listen, I need some time. Like, it was so honest, it was so heartfelt. And I think if anything, that just made people eager for you to return and to see how you were doing and see what you were up to. And just to, like, I think if anything, it was like a good drop off. It was like when people couldn't wait to see what you were up to and for you to come back. So, you got to do what you got to do. I respect it.
And so many people don't talk about like the financial impact of divorce or just major life
Mm.
changes in general. And so I
Yeah.
wanted to take the time to get my life back together and be able to actually reflect on the things that had happened.
Yeah.
So of course my emergency savings, they were drained. So I had to
Oh,
rebuild myself in 2020.
Yes.
You know, we had paid off all of this debt. We had a house, net worth in the mid hundreds. I was so happy about that 100,000s.
Yes.
And I had to start all over.
Right.
So that was my first order of business. I saved a 6-month emergency fund last year. I
Yes.
started investing crazy because no longer could I envision my future with like a military retirement pension in about 10 years.
True.
You know,
Right.
like I had to rethink all of my financial plans. And so that's where I spent the majority of my energy when I had stuff in 2020.
yeah. Oh man, it's kind of like it's in a weird way. It's almost like the universe paused for you to
Yeah,
to
I
do
swear.
that. Like it sounds like right at the time where you kind of needed that. And like, of course, being isolated sucks, but it also has that benefit of giving you that time and space to get it together and to take the time that you need. It was like the universe was like in sync, girl, with what you need. That's kind of a beautiful thing.
First, I was pissed off because I'm like, this is punishment. Like, what
Yeah.
is happening? Like, I need to be outside.
I'm single again. I'm supposed to be out and about in these
I need
streets.
happy hour. I was so upset. But then, of course, like you said, I had to sit down and reflect and okay, this is great. My company that I work for, they were very understanding. They knew I was hanging on by a thread even in December, November of 2019. And so once everything hit, my manager, she was really there for me and let me take the time and space that I needed to just
That's
be.
awesome.
Mhm.
Luckily, I keep saying luckily, I just feel so lucky because if you look at like where I come from, like everything is luck to me. Even being here talking to you is luck. Oh my gosh, trying to
Yeah.
get my grandma on Zoom, girl, no. So like everything, like I feel so lucky, but
Yeah.
I was able to turn my finances around again,
Yes.
and oh my gosh, like I tripled, quadrupled my net worth. I saved
Yes,
every
honey.
penny. I was able to just live on half of my income here in California by myself. No family assisted me in my moves or any of my transitions. And so I'm happy to be out of that fog and another financial devastation.
Yes.
It's funny because for people who are looking at Danny, like this is a perfect example of how you can overcome whatever life it literally throws at you. $100,000 of debt, all kinds of hot mess financial pressures. You get over it, you get through it, you come to a good place, and you never know what else might come. It's not like you're ever really done working on yourself financially. And so I think the divorce is hard, figuring out a relocation, all of that is hard. Like so much of it is hard, but it's all part of the financial journey that you started a long time ago. It's not like this new financial journey that you're on. It's just kind of like another, like step in this longer journey that you're taking towards your own personal financial independence. So it's so interesting to see you lay it out that way, where it's like, okay, another kind of moment where I had to move through the fog, but it's like, yeah, you're right. It's another moment on this longer journey that you've been on it. So it's not like it was completely caught off guard. I didn't even know what to do. I had to, start from scratch with understanding finances. No, you had those tools. So, which, thank goodness you did.
And, I started being able to talk to a part of my audience that had experienced like income loss or divorce and separation. And
Yes.
I realized, like you said, I was in a better place than I would have been if it happened 2 years ago or four
Right.
years ago. Of course, I wish that I had more of my finances because I was pulling the majority of my income to pay off the debt. Like, we lived on his income and we were throwing all of my income to accomplish our goals. So
Right.
that's why it was a little hard for me at the beginning to set myself up because I had to catch up. Like I had to catch
Yeah.
up on my retirement. I had to catch up on my individual emergency fund. And so there are people out there who are advocates for one income, one household income for all, but women need to know how to manage their money.
That's
Okay.
right.
Like
Honey, say it again.
I don't want to be negative or Debbie Downer, but you never know what can happen. It may
That's
not be
right.
divorce. Your husband may lose their job. Like what are you
Um,
going to do then?
yes.
They may pass away. Like, you have to think of those things. You can't just live in this fantasy land with rainbows and unicorns and expect things to
Yes.
always remain the same.
That's right.
And that's the biggest thing that I learned. And I'm stronger because of it. If I ever do get in another relationship, I'm coming with my own bag. Okay.
Yes, girl. Yes,
Like,
girl.
hey, what do you have to offer? What's your plan? And then now we can join our plans together. I
Yes.
will never release all of my goals to accompany someone else's. I just don't see that in my future. And I encourage people to always keep their goals in mind and focus on the things that they want to achieve. Never put
Yes.
those things in the back burner.
Girl, yes. I just could imagine how hard that must be because not only are you going through all of those things, but you're doing it not like a public way, but like a semi-public way because 40,000 plus people know you just on Instagram, plus all the blog followings that you have. Like, and then having to tell everyone, listen, we're as you've known us as a couple through this whole journey, but we're separating and now I have to figure this out. And so dealing with it in like somewhat of a public way must have added another layer of difficulty, I imagine. And I mean, so it's, I guess, a two-part question. Like, talk about like that, right? Like just being vulnerable enough to just like tell people and come to the decision that you wanted to talk to your audience more about like the financial impacts of divorce, even though that's a very personal thing and you're still like in it, talking about it in a public way. Like that, that is hard. Like, I don't know if I'm in the middle of dealing with something that is so emotional and then also being able to give of myself, like, yeah, I want to tell you guys how it's going. Like that it takes a certain strength and resilience for a person to do that. And then the other piece of it is like more so, I guess, the entire brand, right? Like going public with Pennies to Wealth with when it was you and DJ, but also now that it's just you, like that's a big commitment and a big decision because most people just want to keep their finances private. Finances is a very taboo topic. Money is very taboo. So to have a public platform, a blog, nonetheless, where you're really talking about like story strategies, talking about your own past and your own struggles too, like what are some of the I guess motivations behind being so public with all of it, but also specifically with some of the more challenging stuff?
At first, I didn't want to share.
Understandably.
We had separated. So when you met me, we were separated at
Oh, I
FinCon.
didn't even know. Oh, girl, I didn't even know. Oh, I'm getting the tea. I'm getting the tea.
I know. When he sees this, he's like, girl.
Bye. Why you telling my business?
Yeah. But hey, I'm all about honesty. And that is
Yeah.
also another like trauma response. Like you want to keep this image up and pretend that everything is okay. So yeah, all of the majority of 2019 we were separated, and
Yeah.
of course he was still helping me with the blog and all of that. So yeah, I had to deal with that publicly and privately because on
Ooh,
on
yes.
Instagram, hey, this is our joint finances, but in the back end, I'm trying to figure out like how to find a
How we
job.
separating them.
Yeah, like to support me here because
Yes.
my income then I would have had no money left over.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
so I was
man.
trying to figure out all of these things. And so once the new year hit, I thought it was like a new year, new me. I didn't know we were going to be on lockdown all freaking year, but it still it was a positive still. But yeah, in the
Yeah.
new year, I was like, I can't. The energy it takes for me to live this double life is just too much. I
Yeah.
felt that the honesty would be more healing, not only for me, but for my audience as well. Because
Right.
I found out so many people were going through the same thing in one way or the other.
Mm.
And once I spoke about it and saw the response, I was like, okay, it's like, I don't know, I felt like it was my universal duty to continue
Yeah.
sharing. Like, I didn't want to let people down. I wanted to be as
Right.
honest as possible about the ups and the downs, because it's not always going to be perfect. You're going to have good moments, you're going to have bad moments. When
Such is
I
life.
had decided to pay off my credit cards, like in 2015, 2016, his mom had passed away. Like suddenly. And there's always these moments that you're going to have to encounter. And so
Right.
I've always been a proponent for a healthy emergency fund, not just a few $100s, and
Right.
that's not going to save you in anything, as
No,
we've
no.
seen.
Right.
People turn their nose up at the $600 stimulus, but they're also following people who say that $1,000 is enough. And so it's like, who are you really mad at? Are you mad at
Mhm.
yourself or the government? And so
Right.
it's like, you have to take all of those things into account. And so that's why I shared. I wanted to be me publicly and privately. I
Yes.
didn't want to have to do both.
Yeah.
I love that. I'm so glad you did that for yourself when you did, because it seems like it was just so freeing for you to just be able to let that go and just say, what's the point for me to sit here and continue to show you our joint finances while I'm in the process of trying to separate them apart? Like I can't, I got to tell you guys, like I can't, it's too much. And I imagine that must feel so freeing. So I'm glad, I'm happy for you.
Thank you so much.
It's hard. And some of these decisions too, I feel like you probably also feel the pressure. Like, dang it, but like everybody knows us as DJ and Dannie. And like,
Right.
but you at the end of the day, it's just like the financial decisions we talked about earlier. Sure. So you can keep on doing the DJ and Dannie thing, or you can say to yourself and your audience, like, I have to do what's right for me. Like, I'm not going to spend $15,000 on a wedding again. This time I'm going to do what makes sense for me and what I actually want to do. And, again, it's like with age and maturity, you get that grace to say to yourself, like, yeah, no, this is not speaking to me.
I'm so much better and stronger because of it. Like,
Yeah.
a lot of the people who checked on me were from my blog and from
Mhm.
Instagram. Like, not even my personal friends I've known since high school. Like,
Right.
they were actually checking on me. And so I'm like, oh, I'm so glad. Oh, I'm going to cry because you're so great.
Oh, yeah. And that's the beautiful thing of having people that follow your journey and they want you to succeed and they want to be there for you. That's beautiful. Ah,
I told you I'm an empath. Like, any little thing.
Yeah. That's
Oh
okay.
my
It's all
gosh.
good.
Yeah.
that's how you listen. Too many people hold things in, and I listen, girl. I give you all the space, all the space.
Yeah, it was a blessing, especially, in lockdown, and
Yeah.
all of my family is still in North Carolina, and just to have a community where
Yeah.
they're like, Danny, how are you doing to eat?
Yeah. That's
So I was so
beautiful.
happy. Yeah, I would not change anything. These are happy tears. I'm a happy
I love
crier.
that.
Everyone knows that.
I love that. I love that because it's like when you first initially built out Pennies to Wealth and went public with your finances and your experiences, that's such a hard decision. But coming to a place where you are now, being so grateful that you did go public with it, that you did go and build this thing and share your journey, because the reward of it is so much bigger than just like people clicking on your blog posts. Like, that's not what this is about. It's so much more than that.
No, like I've always thought of it as my family. And so, when we first started, we didn't have our pictures on there. We were hiding behind like the logo and just
Yeah.
giving advice. And then I remember people started asking, well, how do you do it? Can I see what you
Hmm.
do? Or like, where do you shop? And I'm like, oh girl, I shop at the Dollar Tree.
Dollar Tree. Dollar Tree, honey. Yes.
in Costco. Okay. But yeah, and so that's how I actually got out of my shell. I've always been an introvert.
Yeah.
I keep to myself in most situations, but the community that we were able to build has helped in more. Like they've helped me more than I feel like I've helped them.
Oh, no, girl, please. It might feel like that to you, but you've helped so much. I mean, just having a place where you can go consistently. And like on your blog, I've done a little bit of digging and I realize how much value you don't just post your blog posts. There's so many free resources, links, there's toolkits, there's a starter kit. There's like, if you need this, go here. If you need that, click that. It's like really thinking about like a holistic approach, like when somebody comes, regardless of where they are, what they might need, and making sure that it's a one-stop shop for people like that. And that takes a lot of thought and like insight. It's not just like I scrapped this blog together real quick and I feel bad if it didn't help that many people. Girl, no, you have a huge impact. A huge impact.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You gotta remind yourself sometimes who you are. Okay. Oh man, I love this conversation. This is so cute.
Oh my gosh, I'm a crybaby.
Girl, please. So I think one of the things what I want to ask before we wrap up is overcoming something so big like divorce or like a relocation, and especially during such a difficult time, having the ability to be able to go to a place where you're like, oh, somebody else has dealt with this, or somebody else has, it has a similar experience that allows me to that resonates with me. Like for people that are dealing with some financial challenge that they don't have that community, they don't have that place, they don't have that space. What are some tips or steps that you would say might be helpful in a difficult time? Like, hey, I feel like I'm the only one dealing with this and I don't find anybody that's struggling with this the way I am. Like, what can you do? There's so many challenges that people deal with, and we know there are communities, there are spaces, but if you're in a rut and you feel like those spaces don't exist or you haven't found them yet, like what would you say you might offer to people in that situation?
That's so tough because I'm one of those people, like, I'm very optimistic, but I'm also like, my world is crumbling and I'm the only one in this world who's dealing with this.
Yeah.
So I see both ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
First, start being honest with the people in your circle. Like maybe it's a friend or a coworker that you can seek out. One of
True.
my most best friends now is one of my coworkers, and when I first met her, like, we don't have anything in common, but just starting to share and be open about what we're both going through
Yep.
has meant the world to me. um, I hid my divorce from my whole family for a year and a half. Like, they didn't know I was getting divorced until I was on the U-Haul,
Wow.
honey. Okay.
Woo! Wow. Wow.
Because I felt ashamed. And then my mom's like, girl, what are you thinking? Like, why didn't you tell me sooner? And then I would have
Yeah.
had someone to lean on, like,
That's right.
so don't bottle all of that in. Even if you can seek out services with your job, I know they offer free counseling most of the time. Just find someone that you can talk to,
Yes.
get it out. Like, do not
Yes.
hold it in, because it's going to come out eventually and it's not going to be pretty.
I love
Take it
that.
from me, it's gonna bubble and bubble and bubble until it just
Hmm.
falls out.
Yep. Yep.
And then
Yep.
two, there's so many different influencers and experts in, of course, like the financial space. Find someone who is going through the things that you're currently going through, or who have overcome those things. I didn't have role models. Like, I had to sort of figure it out. I couldn't Google skinny Black
Mm.
girl who grew up in poverty who now wants to be a
Right.
millionaire. Like, there.
Dannie Pennies to Wealth would pop up if you search that.
Like, I didn't see me really, like, they either had like a loving household
Yeah.
and they had college paid for, or anything like that. It just didn't look like me. And I'm like, girl, how? Like, I need
Yeah.
me of me.
Yeah.
And so I definitely encourage people to seek out someone who
I love
not
that.
only resembles what you're going through, but who is open and willing to provide the good and the bad. Because,
Yeah.
me being in debt, that was so horrible and terrible, but it got me to building wealth. And the whole reason for the name Pennies to Wealth. Like, I had the audacity to think that I could
Yes.
go from pennies to wealth. And at that moment, honey, I was sitting at an IKEA dining table that cost $50. Like, and we didn't have a dining table for 5 years, okay?
Oh,
So I'm sitting there with this bright idea of, hey, let's just
yeah.
call it
I love it.
Pennies to Wealth.
Manifestation. You got to manifest it, girl. That's what you did.
Do. Just remember that your situation is not forever. It's only temporary. That's the most
Yes.
important thing. So even if you can't even get yourself out of bed some days, or it just seems like you can't get out of that debt, remember, hey, like, my intentions are pure. I want to achieve these things, and where I'm currently at is only temporary. That is the only thing that got me through all of
Preach.
the changes and the issues that I encountered.
So inspirational. I know that message is going to hit. It's going to hit deep for so many people. So thank you. I love that a lot. All right, girl. Well, I got one last question for you, which is my favorite one. And it's really this idea of getting people to think deeply before making transactions or while they're transacting. Like, what is a money mantra that they should really carry with them every decision that they make that involves money? So we're going to take your face, your beautiful face, and put it right over George Washington's. We're going to put you on the dollar bill, and then we're going to have your money mantra go over it, which is just your money message that you want people to really keep with them, that revolves around, ideas about money and, just really like a money message. So what would your money mantra be?
Every penny counts.
Ooh, that's so cute.
It's so true, though.
Yes, girl, that is true.
I swear, like, you guys, like, I am being honest. Like, I have one of my first budgets, and I swear it was like only pennies that I could find left
Yeah.
over.
Girl, sometimes it be like that.
It does. And so don't turn your nose up, honey. If you can only save $5 now, in a few months it could be $50. And if a year it can be 500, 5,000, 50,000. Like, don't limit yourself by what you currently see. That penny on the street, honey, can make you millions. And I swear, I am living proof of it. I really am.
I love that one. I'm excited to put it together. I'm going to tag you. I'm going to share it. Yes, girl. It's going to be everywhere. Thank you so much for making time to have this conversation with me, Dannie, to update us on you, your life. And just, it seems like you're so like full of joy and just like rejuvenated from everything you've been through. And I'm happy to see that. And I'm happy to hear that. So I'm happy for you. And I'm proud of you. I'm so inspired by you, everything, all the things. So much love. And thank you for being here with me today.
Oh my gosh, girl. And I saw you on the Financial Wellness Council. So shout out to you for CNBC.
Girl, when they called me up, I said, oh, absolutely, 100%. Yes, I will do it.
Yes. I was randomly on it yesterday for work, and I was like, is that her?
That's me, girl. It me.
I'm so happy that you're doing this and getting these messages out to people, because it's so needed, especially now. So thank you for all that you're doing, not only with your brand, but with the children as well. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, girl, we need to teach these kids. Yes. Thank you so much, love. Have an amazing rest of your day and week.
You too.
All right, love. Bye-bye.
Bye.
If you like this video, which I'm sure you did because the video was the bomb, then you're going to want to watch all the other episodes of the Mind Your Money with MissBeHelpful podcast. And they're all right here in this playlist. So click the playlist to watch those episodes. And if you haven't subscribed to this YouTube channel yet, I don't know what you're waiting for. Click the subscribe button right now so you can get videos every single week and to join Team Be Helpful right here. That's all I have for you guys. Till next time, peace.